Hello and welcome to Low Budget Gaming and welcome to another first Descendant video. So I got another comment regarding the Ancestors mod, and basically Daily 4092 is asking, is there any way you can make a video about the best roles or stats for Ancestors mods for every Descendant? I've seen a variation of this comment, so I thought I'll tackle this. And what I've done is I've prepared a simple sort of cheat sheet to give you a rough idea of how to look out for the best roles that you want, because I could have made it for all the 21 Descendants, but it would be time consuming and it wouldn't work because your builds would be different to mine. And plus the roles that you get on the Ancestors mods, you don't really control them. So you could get anything and so it wouldn't fit. You have to understand how to adjust it into your build and still benefit from the Ancestors mod. So I'll also give you a couple of examples at the end, maybe one or two Descendants, and how I would adjust the different roles into the build. Okay, so this video may get on the longer side, so use the timestamp. So let's get into this cheat sheet that I've prepared, and so you can get a rough idea. The main criteria I've used to separate the Descendants is crit and non-crit. So we have on the left Sharon, who's a crit-based Descendant, and on the right we have Freyna, non-crit. So this will change the roles that you want on the Ancestors mod slightly. So on the crit side, you have others like Viessa, Nell, Lepig. On the non-crit side, you have people like Harris, for example. You have Keelan. You have several other Descendants like Asimo, Kyle, etc. And then you have some people in the middle who can kind of benefit from both. So for example, Valby, most of her Transcendent mods are non-crit. You can make non-crit builds for her, but you also have Supply Moisture, which can give her a lot of crit. Similarly, you have Bunny. Bunny is somewhere in the middle in terms of base crit. So you can build her into crit and still get around 50% crit rate on her. So you can have both types of builds for Bunny. So those guys, you can use either of those things based on the build. Now, what I've done is I've put three sections. I've put must-have. These are the must-have roles that you want. Must-have doesn't mean you need to have both of them. What I'm saying is you need to have at least one of them. And the ideal one will be on top. In the optional section, you have things that will improve your build, give you some quality of life, but won't necessarily give you more power, more damage. And in the negative one, this one you need to understand a little bit. I've only listed the negative stuff that will not hurt your build. Okay. Anything from the must-have or the optional section, if that goes into the negative, that will ruin your build. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. So let's start first with the crit Descendant Sharon on the left. In the must-have section, the thing that will give you the most power will be crit damage. Okay, so simple enough. If you get an Ancestors mod with like 165% crit damage, that will just straight up give her a lot more damage. Next, we have RK power boost. So as you know, RK power, the thing like singular, tech, fusion, dimension, those things, there is no way of increasing it via the mods. The only place you get the RK power boost is on the reactor. Okay. So having more of that will just balance out your build and give you more damage in terms of the multiplication, and you'll do more damage. So those are the two things you want on your crit Descendant. In the optional section, you have cooldown, duration, range, cost reduction, MP increase, also element power. Now element power will give you a little more damage, unlike the other things. However, it's not as important on the crit Descendant. And then you have crit rate. So crit rate is an interesting one because let's say Sharon with the blue beetle in hand, for me, she gets around 91% crit rate. So if you get a little bit of crit rate, you'll comfortably hit that 100% easily. And if you get a lot of crit rate, you can swap out one of the crit mods and slot in the Ancestors mod so that you're still getting your 100% crit rate or your 90% crit rate, and you're getting more damage. So this is an optional one. This can be useful, but there is no downside to it basically. And one more thing I forgot to write because there wasn't enough space is the modifier. You'll also have the modifiers. Now modifiers are not that important. They'll give you a little bit of a benefit in terms of damage, but it won't make much of a difference either way. If you have them, great. If you don't have them, it's still not going to hurt your build that much. And then we have the negative. For Sharon, the negative would be, in my opinion, cooldown. Cooldown would be a very negative thing. Cost would be a negative thing. But if you're looking for things that won't hurt her build that much, a bit of range wouldn't be a problem. A little bit of duration reduction wouldn't be a problem. So this will be very specific to the build. And so for certain descendants, range may not be important, skill cost may not be an issue, something else wouldn't matter that much. So I can't really say that, okay, you can have this negative and it won't hurt your build. You'll have to look into the build specifically. On the right side, let's look at the non-crit now. So for example, we have RK power boost. This is again very important. Freyna doesn't have crit rate, so you can't put crit damage, it won't make a difference. So you want as much RK power, that is your main priority. Second is element power, the toxic power. Again, this can be optional, but because we don't have a third way of increasing the damage like we have with the crit descendants, element power wouldn't hurt, even though you still get plenty of toxic power from various sources. So these two things would be the main one. RK power would be the main priority with someone like Freyna or any of the non-crit descendants. Then we have the optional section. You can have anything here. You can have more cooldown, more duration, range. Cost reduction will be very useful on Freyna. More MP will be very useful and things like that. And then we have the negative. With Freyna, because she's a non-crit, if you were to get, let's say, minus 100% crit rate or minus 80% crit damage, that will make no difference. That will actually be better for Freyna because the other options will be better. Let's say you get 1 negative and 3 positive. The 3 positives will have higher percentages because of the negative one. And minus crit rate, minus crit damage will not matter at all for Freyna because, again, we are building her with 0 crit anyway. So that is the negative that will not affect the build. So hopefully this makes sense. You can take a screenshot if you want. Now let's go into the lab and I'll show you a few examples with, maybe I'll use Viessa and Ines because I have quite a few mods there. All right, so here we have Viessa. Now Viessa is a crit-based descendant, obviously. And so let's look at the ancestors mods I have for her. As I said, crit damage would be the main thing and RK power boost would be the next best thing. So over here with this one, I have skill critical hit damage of 40% and singular skill power modifier. So I said singular, the modifier ones, those are somewhere in the middle in the optional section. So again, no harm. Next, we have the crit damage of 103, singular skill power modifier of 0.4, and have max MP. So really good mod once again. This one here, we have max HP, so giving her more survivability. We have singular skill power and chill skill power. So basically singular would be the one in the must-have, and chill will be in the optional according to my setup here. And then we have this one here, which has max shield. Again, you can put max shield in the optional section. And then we have a significant singular skill power boost ratio. So all these four are really, really good mods that can change the build. Now, the important thing is how do you adjust this into your build? So first, what we can do is let's compare the damage output and see which one may be better than the other. So let's get Legion of Darkness because this is the faction in the Supermassive Receptor. And I'll stand over here so that we don't trigger her passive and do more damage. So first up, I have the standard absolute 0 build here. We have focus on singular, focus on chill, nimble fingers, MP conversion, skill insight, skill concentration, frontlines emergency measures, 1 range mod, 1 HP mod. So let's have a look at the numbers here. 820 shield, 17,650 HP, 317, well, you can say 318 MP. And if you look at the skill numbers here, we have base skill power of 0.5. Let me just actually get the quantum domain up so that we have the same number in terms of damage because we want consistency with our testing. So let's get all these up to 15 because when you have a quantum domain at 15, you get more range and you get more damage, skill power, the base skill power from the quantum domain. Okay, so let's look at the numbers now. Okay, let's look at it now. 0.24 times base skill power. So you get 0.9 from the quantum domain and you get 15% from the power beyond trigger mode. 972, 0.972. This is the focus on chill and so on. Singular power boost ratio. So this is from the reactor. 0.2 is from the reactor and 5%, 0.05 will be from the 2 pieces of the plague set. Tech power we don't need, but it is on the plague set, so it's listed here. Then we have the singular skill power modifier. This is from the focus on singular. And then we have 100% crit rate, 90% cooldown, and 4.472 times crit damage. So this is the one we say is the most important, the must-have one. So increasing this will increase your damage. Okay, so let's first just hit the Vulgus and see what the damage number is. 963,497. So 963, just under a million with the first skill, only hitting it once. I'm also standing quite a few feet away, meters away, because I don't want these 3 orbs, the passive, to hit him and do more damage. So 963 is the number. Okay, now let's reset this and go into the build and try and adjust the different transcendent mods. So easiest thing I could do is I could swap out the HP and just put these in, okay, just to make life simple. So let's do we have the, yeah, so this is so again, this one is max shield and 0.329 times singular. Okay, so if we put this here, and if we look at, let me just get the shield maxed out. So we have 2,397 max shield, and our HP is dropped from 17,650 down to 9,377. Okay, if you look at the numbers here, our singular power boost ratio has increased significantly. This was only 0.25. Now this is 579, massive increase. Crit damage stays the same because again, this mod did not have crit damage. So let's see the damage number now. Remember, we had 963,000 with the without that ancestors mod. 1.217398. So well, not exactly 300,000 more, but a significant amount increase, about 260,000 roughly. So yeah, 1.217 million damage, a decent increase without losing anything else. We did lose a little bit of HP, but we got a tiny bit more shield here. So from 820 to about 2400. So we have a little more shield, but again, overall our HP is down. So we still have a reasonable amount of defense, let's say survivability, but we get a lot more power. So we are hitting 260,000 more damage per from our first ability. Okay, so let's remove this one, and now let's look at this one. So this one increases our HP, gives us more singular power, only a little bit, like about 11%, and chill power of 26%. So if we put this here, now we have 11,360. So we had 9,377, something like that, without the HP mod. And in the numbers over here, we are up to 416. Hang on, this shouldn't be correct, because I have a trigger module that is kind of messing up the singular number. It's 359. This is the correct number. Chill power has gone up to 1.232. It was 0.972. And did we have anything else? No, this was the main thing. We had an HP increase. So this goes up a little bit. Okay, so previous one, we can see over here is 1,217,000. The one without any ancestors mod was 963. Okay, that was a non-crit. That's why we did not see anything. This is the crit one. So 1.186. Okay, the previous one was 1.217. So we had more singular power in that one and nothing else. This time we had chill power and singular power, and still this one is lower than the previous one. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. Now let's look at another one. This one here. This one has singular modifier, crit damage. This is the big one. And this one here also has crit damage. This is 140. So let's look at this one first. This has modifier and MP. Okay, so MP goes up to 347. This was 317. This goes up 1.084. This was like 682.682. And then crit damage, look at the crit damage. It went up from 4.472 to 5.71. All right, now let's look at the damage. Hopefully we crit this time. 1.269. Okay, 1,269,000. So this is the highest so far among the different ones we've had. But the one that had a lot of singular power was very close. We had 1,217,000 with that one. So that one was not bad. We were getting shield as well with that one. This one is giving definitely more. And we're also getting more MP, so you can spam her skills a little bit more. So this also has some quality of life thing. All right, now let's look at the final mod, which is this one here. Singular skill modifier and critical hit damage of 140. All right, so this one was 1269. This one 1355. So by far, as we can see, the crit damage is the one that is giving us the most benefit. So hopefully this made sense. Now, of course, in some cases, you will have some negatives. So let me get Ines here, because I kept one mod just to show you for this video. I think I got this yesterday or day before yesterday. So Ines, I'm using this one here. Critical hit damage of 168, electric skill power. Really, really good mod. That just increases her. This is the one I've been using. Now, I got this one over here. This one. Max shield 269% increase. Critical hit rate 329% critical hit rate. But skill critical hit damage is minus 78%. This is a terrible mod. This is really, really bad. The max shield is the only good thing here. We don't need that much crit rate on Ines. You can get her to 100% very easily. So all of that crit rate is wasted. The best I can do is drop the critical hit rate inside. Okay, fair enough, no big deal. I can easily compensate. But we are losing damage with the minus critical hit damage. There is no other way of increasing the crit damage. So even if you have 100%, because the crit rate is capped at 100%, and so if you have 400%, 329% like we have over here, this isn't going to increase the crit rate any more than it already is. It's already at 100%. However, with the crit damage, it can go up as much as possible. So we are reducing the crit damage. If this was reversed, imagine if we had 100%, 329% crit damage and minus 78% crit rate, we could still work around that because we will have the other mods making up for the loss of the crit rate. So this is a terrible mod. I was actually going to re-roll this, but I thought I'll keep it and show it on the video first. So let me actually just put this in to show you how it messes up the build. So over here you have 100% crit rate, 5.485 crit damage. Okay. If you put this here, you're down to 4.3. You're still at 100% because again, even if I remove this, we'll still be 100%. But we are losing the crit damage. So we are actually doing less damage with these rows. So crit damage, minus crit damage is a no-no. You do not want that. Even if I was to, because see these ones, the emergency measures, it has a lot of crit rate, but we're also going to lose even more crit damage. So even if I remove this, we are still at 100%. Okay. But we are even further down on the crit damage. So yeah, basically this is a really bad mod, even though we have 2 gold rolls here, because the one that we don't want is getting messed up. So let me just get everything back in. Skill emergency measures here. I had HP over here. Just put that back in. And let's go back to the ones that I have. I haven't actually had a look at all of them. Oh yeah, this one, yeah. Oh no, this is the one I'll be dismantling because I've rolled this 5 times. I thought this was like the blank one. No, this is the blank one. Okay, this is another bad one. This one has max MP goes up. Ines doesn't need that much MP. Ines is pretty good with the MP consumption. Skill effect range can be a little bit helpful. If you're not using 2 range mods, it'll give you that extra bounce on the first ability. Tech modifier isn't bad either. However, you're losing tech skill power. That is important. That is the second most important thing. So again, not a great mod. I'll re-roll this. This one here, just straight up best mod. I'll put this back in just to remind you of the numbers. This is the one I was using. We also have this one here, electric skill power, massive increase to the electric skill power. Really good. And then we have this one here, singular skill power boost and max MP. This will be handy for the non-hunting hounds mod, this one, where the third skill is singular. So this will be very good for this build because you get almost 40% increase to your singular power. That is really good. And a little bit of MP, that's like an optional thing. You don't really need it, but it's still there. So with this one, let me put this one here, this one. And we'll also maybe see this one. So this one here, critical hit damage of 168%, 5.485. If you put this, this one, 8 times crit damage. And also the electric power goes up 1.454. So really, really good mod here. By the way, you don't get base skill power on these mods, on the Ancestors mod. Otherwise, we could balance out the builds even further. But what you can do is, let's say I got so much electric power, I could maybe use power increase instead of the focus on electric, something like that, to adjust the build. But I want all the cooldowns, so I'm going to keep the focus on electric. But yeah, this one is great. And then we also have this one here, electric. This has the highest electric power boost I've seen so far, 61%. I've not seen any other mod with this kind of number. And we still have the high. So these two are good. Yeah, so basically this is terrible. That is what I wanted to show you with this Ines setup. So hopefully this was useful, and hopefully the video wasn't too long. I'll put up the cheat sheet once again if you wanted to have a look and take a screenshot. But yeah, hopefully this made sense. It's not complicated, very simple. Again, crit damage on the crit descendants, that's the most important thing. RK power on the non-crit descendants, that's the most important thing. And the rest of it you adjust on your build. For example, with Freyna, if you're not using 2 range mods, having more range will be helpful. HP and MP are always helpful, unless your descendant is a non-MP type like Harris, for example, or Keelan. Then in that case, more MP wouldn't help you. So things like that. So if you get like minus MP on Keelan or Harris, then it wouldn't hurt you. So things like that, you'll have to adjust and understand your build and your mod to take the most out of it. But yeah, hopefully this was useful. Thank you for watching as always, and see you in the next one.